Great, we're live.
Alright.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Support Corner. And today we have myself and Ghada, which will be almost every episode of ours. Um, Support Corner is basically Ghada and I discussing a lot of questions that we get from ex-Muslims, some common threads that we come across, and suggestions that worked for us. And if anybody else has anything to add or ask questions, let us know. Let us know what topics we should be discussing. For today, we have processing death, grief, and the afterlife. Um, and I guess just to begin with, Gada, I think the way I saw this topic was dividing it into two topics, but essentially it'll be answering the same question. So there is one, processing death, that means what would happen to us if we die, and how do we process death of a loved one and grief for it, and the afterlife, or what do we think of the afterlife, given that we no longer believe in it, or processing nothingness, and how do we console with our families or friends when our loved ones have died, and the common thing when they say, well, they're in a better place. I find that really hard sometimes to make peace with. But what do you think about it? I feel like they'll overlap once we talk about what we think of death.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, for me, death means just the end of everything.
Mhm.
Is
And
there an echo? Is it just
uh no, that let me see if I mute my mic.
all right?
Yeah, that
All
was
right.
I can mute myself if you keep hearing yourself.
Okay, that sounds good. So the for me at least, death is the end of everything, and I know sometimes when people think about death, and it's very difficult. It was like, what do you mean, just the end? Like there has to be something after, but there was nothing before us. And it seems to me that once we die, that's it. Like it won't be. It'll be as if we just never existed.
And
And
how do you console with that fear? Is it a fear for you?
it
Or
used to
how
be a
was it?
fear. It's not the fear that I have of death itself. It's more of not being able to do the things that I want to do before I die. Like I want to experience living before I
Yeah.
die. That's the fear. The fear is not being able to experience living.
Yeah, and I know just based on your story that, when you had escaped Saudi Arabia, it felt like you just started living.
Exactly. So I'm not ready to die. God damn it.
Yeah, I definitely, like, personally, I don't think I feared death in a way. I used to say I never wanted to be old and be in pain and die, so I would have loved to have died earlier at 35, and I know that's really young, but that was a mindset because I felt like, as I grow older, there wouldn't be much that I would be able to do. But personally, just after leaving Islam and just having those restrictions lifted off you, I feel like there's a lot more that I can do, and my old age shouldn't impair me from it.
Exactly. I mean, I
But
go hiking. I go
yeah.
hiking all the time, and I've seen so many couples together. That are in their 60s and sometimes even older. Like they're retired and they're all having fun. And it's something that I've noticed. Like it's for us in the Arab world, or in maybe it's more the Middle East and sometimes some parts of the Muslim world. When you when you reach a certain age, especially if you're a woman, it's like a death sentence. Like that's it. Your life is ended. It's like once you turn 50 something, that's it. You're done.
Mm.
And it's so sad because like once you get outside of that realm and you meet
Mhm.
all those other older people, sometimes even their 70s and 80s, and they're living their lives, they're still traveling, they're still enjoying, meals outside, going to nature, watching birds, like something, some of them still
Yeah.
bike. Like that's still something that we can do.
Yeah, and I'm like, I guess what I'm about to say, we can probably go into exploring this in a different episode. But I feel like for women, just like you mentioned,
Mhm.
that our purpose in life, given by Islam or like our parents or God, was mostly, get married, get pregnant, have kids, raise kids, and then that's it. That's your duty. That's your duty
Mhm.
as a Muslim. And I think that was, I guess, like quite constraining as well. Like it was tiring just knowing that this is what I have to fulfill in order to go to heaven and like fulfill my purpose in this life.
And
Which,
not, I
yeah,
mean, sorry, and not only that, but it's like in addition to all of what you just said, it makes you hate life
yeah, yeah,
because
absolutely.
all you're doing is working towards an end goal that you may or that you don't even know if it's going to be there.
Yeah. And I guess what was your process of, I know your disbelief came later on, but there are a lot of ex-Muslims who, okay, fine, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in heaven or hell, but also, like, what is your understanding of what would happen after death? I know you said nothingness, but how does one come to consoling themselves of nothingness or being happy? I know you said live your life, but what are some
Uh,
practical ways somebody can absorb it?
I don't really know how some other people would be able to come to terms with it. Sometimes there are things that we just need to accept that they do happen. Like for example, death. Death happens everywhere, and even though we don't like death, it still does happen. Maybe I'll switch a little bit as well to the other side, how to process a loved
Mhm,
one's death, because I lost somebody very, very, very close to me who was my childhood best friend before we turned 25. And it was the most heartbreaking thing that has ever happened to me. But I was also an ex Muslim at the time. So I didn't have that, I'll pray for him, or, you will be reunited with him in the Jannah and all of that. Like none of that was in my head. But what helped me, I guess, is that think about it as from a point of view of the first law of thermodynamics, where energy is neither constructed or uh, destructed. It can only change from one form to the other. So we're all not really dying.
yeah, I
We're
actually
dead.
wonder.
We were dead. Like this is dead, but we're going to change into something else.
Yeah, I mean, that is an argument. That is definitely a perception of, I guess, how to process. It never worked for me though. For me,
Mhm.
I think I too lost my niece in 2017, and it was just around the time where I was losing God. It was a lot happening at once. So I was in that thing, and I'm like, should I pray for her? But my heart doesn't tell me to pray for her because it's all like I don't believe in God. If I'll be praying, I'm still praying to God. And it was just so confusing, especially when you've newly left and are leaving. And with my niece, I think the one practical way, atheist or theist, what helped me process was she's gone. She's not coming back. I'm not going to see her on her fifth birthday. I'm not going to see her get married, graduate, come visit me, be a teenager, rebel, nothing. This is it. It was short lived, but I got to meet her. But I spent time with her, and I can go back and celebrate those moments, and it hurts. But at the same time, how can I do right by her and by myself by cherishing what we had? Like, I can't go
Mhm.
back. It hurts so much. But what do I do with this pain, anger, and grief? And how do I evolve that into something positive? Because if she's dead, she's not hurting anymore. She's not in
Yeah.
pain. I am in pain. And how do I do this for my pain? And that's how I would go back and see it. And it still hurts sometimes every time I look at it. And then I think sometimes practically I just have to look at some good photos, cry a little, laugh a little, and then I'm like, she was there and she's gone.
And here's another thing: grieving is completely and totally okay. I know in a lot of, even when I was grieving my best friend, my mom would come in and would tell me, Just have patience, have sabr,
Yeah.
pray for him. You can't just cry every time you think of him. It's like, but he's literally like, I've known him since I was a baby. You were there. You were the ones that introduced us to each other. We were friends since then. How can you be so heartless? Like, this person was a part of me. I have to grieve, and it's
Yeah.
okay to grieve, and grieve for as long as you want. It's okay. Don't let anyone tell you that it's too long. You're taking too long. You have to pick up your life. And I understand that. You do need to go at some point in your life. You have to stop and you have to get back to living because you are alive, and you have more to give to the world than just being friends or being close to the person that has passed away. But it's okay to grieve.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that we kind of are made to feel the only way some Muslims or our families can, or even theists in general, can make us feel
Mhm.
better is by maybe lying to us and saying, but you'll meet her there. And to me, that never consoled me. That never made me feel happy, because then in my head, I'm like, should I go there earlier? Do I have to now choose between people who are here and people who have gone just to meet them? And that can actually result in many suicidal thoughts, especially when you're so heartbroken, and even more so when you have to blame a deity for taking them away. I was told that Allah takes those away who He loves the most. So take it. So be happy that He loves them the most, and they're now at a good place. And in my head, I was like, then why doesn't He love me? Or like, why does He hate me enough to see me like this? Why can't He just take the pain away because I am feeling this grief?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, what was your experience in terms of, I guess, what you were told as the afterlife, and what worked and what didn't?
Very, very similar to that. They told me, especially because when I was a kid, and my cousin, who was also my friend at the time, we were 6 or 7, and she passed away. They told me that, oh, children when they die become birds in heaven, and I'm like, but how is that a good thing? Like, I don't understand. Like, they're just going to be birds, or are they going to be flying? I didn't even. This didn't really sit well with me, and this is me at 6 or 7. And then, other than that, it was just that God loves people more when they love them. When He really loves them, He takes them, just like what you said. And I remember being so angry at Allah, so angry. Like, how dare you take her? Like, I know you love her and everything, but I want her back. She's my friend.
Yeah. I think I had similar experiences, because I was at a position where I didn't know who to blame. And I was like, if I blame God, then He created us and He created her, but I can't seem to. I think a lot of that experience, because leaving Islam was like a back and forth thing for me. Like, you're like, have I left it? Have I not? Should I still pray? Should I still say Alhamdulillah? So for me, I think when my niece passed away, I was like, I'm gonna put some Ayatul Kursi or Ziyarat Ashura on, and I just felt like, I thought maybe listening to it because I liked the sound of it would make me feel better, but it just hurt me even more, because there was a lot of times where God was mentioned, and I'm like, but everything that this thing says about you is meant to be good and you're powerful, but you took a 4-year-old away from her mom, away from her aunts, and my brother's daughter. And I was like, and I can't seem to forgive you for it. And I can't, and I know that everybody has to face death, and it was just unfair because she was 4. I think that made me want to take responsibility, like, not for her death, the responsibility that human beings are responsible for their death, and there are things that you can control and there are things you can't control.
Mhm.
So diseases, science, vaccinations, and she died in a boating accident. So there was nothing that could have happened, and it was hurtful, it was painful, it was a shock to my entire community. It was, she was like the life of
Yeah.
the, you know, like the household, and it was painful, and sometimes you don't know, you're confused and you look up to a deity, like you automatically look up to a deity because you've been told for so long. And a lot of people conflate that to be, oh, see, you believe in God because you automatically looked up to him. But a lot of times it's also a lot of confusion. It's a lot of confusion, and you have no idea how to process it.
And death is a very complicated, very, very complicated topic. It's not something that one can easily process, and it's not something that someone can easily just accept. And it's understandable that people would be fighting and trying to find meaning in their lives in order to justify the need to die, essentially. And I understand that just like some other people can't process that that's it, that's nothing. But you can also think of it as an eternal sleep. I knew a person that just looked at it as just an eternal sleep. Like, I think that when you die, you just sleep.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
I
I don't think so. I don't believe that, but he does.
I think knowing that after death is nothingness, or there is nothing that will happen that I'm conscious of, and no matter what happens to me after, made me realize that I should be living my life every day. That I shouldn't be waiting for the afterlife, that this is the life that is promised, that is evident, that is what we have, and that motivates me to do more about it and to live it to the fullest. Um, I guess I kind of wanted to bring up Sarah Hegazi.
Hijazi, yeah.
Hijazi. Okay, Hijazi's death. I think that was something that brought out a lot of emotions from a lot of ex-Muslims. It was really hard for so many people. Um, I didn't even know her. I hadn't even heard about her before. And I read this news and I just started crying for 3 hours.
It's like it just touches you. Even if same thing. I never heard of her until the day she died. But it's just the way she wrote her suicide note, and
Exactly.
it just it touches
I'm
you.
I am getting chills right now,
I
but
know, I know,
I
I
just
know.
I don't I feel like it's a positive and a good feeling to be getting that, because I guess it just aligns with a lot of what ex-Muslims go through. Our
Yeah,
families don't understand us. The state will like the state will torture us or send us away, and the community will ostracize us. And for the longest time we're trying to reason why we're being punished that way.
yeah.
It was hard, and then, but I realized, because she was in so much pain, like reading her story and what she had written about her torture in one of the Arabic magazines, and just going through that, I think, to me, it was that obsessive need to understand her story. Like I said, with my niece's photos, just look at it and understand it and process it. So that is something maybe might work for some people, might be a trigger. But for me, it was like, where did she come from? And then I realized she was in so much pain. And that
Mhm.
even if I had met her, I don't know if I could have relieved her from that pain. And
I don't think I don't think anyone would have been able to relieve
no,
her from that pain. But the other thing also another way to look at it is that, don't not to let her death be to go in vain, because
exactly.
she died essentially for gay rights and for the LGBT community over there in Egypt, and not just in Egypt. When they talk Egypt, they talk not just almost the entire Middle East, because
Yeah.
all of the Middle East kind of sort of looks up to Egypt when it comes to these
Yeah.
things. So just continue fighting, continue fighting the good
Exactly.
fight.
And as much as I hate to say it, it's a stand. Like, she died, and there's a reason for why we need to continue her fight, and do it not just for her, but everybody else that will follow. So that I think I became an activist because of how much abuse I received. And I'm like, it's not fair I'm receiving that much. I don't want other people to do it. The more we normalize it, the more we do it. But
Exactly.
but processing her death meant understanding that her death can still have a bigger purpose in this life, even if she doesn't exist. Which I think with your loved ones, there could be a way to look at your your parents' death or your siblings' death in a way that, they've taught you something. There's something that you can learn from them.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, even if there aren't the best people that you look up to sometimes, and they could be horrible people to you, I hope that, it gives somebody peace to still find the positive in it.
And this is, I'm going to say this as an example, but I'm not saying that this should be done, but
Mhm.
back in 2010, when Bouazizi set himself on fire in Tunisia and set the whole region on fire, essentially. And look at Tunisia now. They're the best country in the Arab world when it comes to rights. Yes, he suffered, and unfortunately, he died a horrible, horrible death. But the outcome was the people of Tunisia did not let his death go in vain.
Yeah, he became an icon. And I feel like a lot of people that way, even the activists who, have gone on death strike, Mubarak Bala, being persecuted for blasphemy laws. I feel like all of this become a bigger purpose than it is. And if we could choose to live a life that, I guess, did not come at such compromise, we would. Um, but I think looking at their death as being going like as going in vain might be a
I'm
wrong
not saying,
strategy.
I know, I'm not saying it like that,
Yeah,
That's just another method. Like,
yeah,
everybody dies. And honestly, almost every death is,
yeah,
in truth, it's like, it's just nothingness. Everything is random. But it's a good, if you have to frame things in meaning, that's
yeah,
one way to frame it in meaning.
yeah. I guess that's what I was trying to say, but I was going to say not in vain. And then I said the opposite. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I guess, yeah, no, I guess that's a positive way to go about it. Um, Somebody just mentioned in the comments about coming across an authentic hadith saying that some babies will go to hell. Did you know about it? Have you heard about it?
I want to see if I can find it.
I
One
asked,
hadith.
yeah. I think the way, if you just think about how loosely hell has been used amongst people, I think one has to take a step back and realize how stupid of a concept that is. Hell and heaven. Imagine doing charity or, doing good by people, or, you know, hurting other people or torturing other people in terms of in I guess in the case of Sarah, thinking that you could still go to heaven by doing so cruel things to them. I think because of that, the meaning of hell and heaven is so loosely used. It's almost it is actually abusive to many people. What do you
Oh,
think, Ghada?
yeah, I totally agree. And I can't find this hadith. I'm trying to find it.
Um,
Oh God, no. It's
Somebody asked a question. Are you optimistic about humanity attaining immortality in the future? This was on Twitter.
oh,
I don't know how I
I don't
feel about
know.
that.
I don't know how I feel about immortality. I don't know if I want to live, but how
Hmm.
am I optimistic? I don't know if it's going to be immortality, but maybe extending life.
I think if I had an option, for instance, in a very mystical world, to drink a poison or to drink a curse or whatnot to just stay immortal, I wouldn't take it.
Me neither.
I think I really like the part of aging, having family or creating a purpose or a goal, living your career, whatnot, and like just enjoying life and then calling it to end more than I want to stay the same age and do the same thing or stay the same age and not having an end. Um, I
I
don't
just
think,
want health.
yeah, yeah. Health is completely reasonable to ask, and I feel like we're not going to get to immortality, but we might get close to it in terms of living longer and longer.
Mhm.
I think it was the book Homo Deus that talks about it.
Like,
I think it's Homo
sounds
Deus.
familiar.
Yeah, Yuval Noah Harari.
Any
Um,
other questions?
their other question, I don't know if they're relevant. Why torture people? I don't get it. Where is the law?
I'm not really sure what this is about.
If you'd like to clarify, please let us know. But did we have any other questions in the room? I'm going to check Twitter again.
Somebody is asking, how can you be so sure that it's the end? I'm not sure. I don't think any of us are sure what's in the end.
Yeah.
We don't know, and it's okay to say that we don't know, and that's what I say. I don't know.
Yeah, I think when I say nothingness, it's only because that's how I see it.
Yeah.
That's how I would see, because there is no evidence of such existing otherwise. There is nothing concrete that says that, or there's nothing concrete that says that we're definitely guaranteed an afterlife.
Yeah. Except in,
Uh,
of course, all of the holy books.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know I said Afterlife, but I also really like Ricky Gervais's TV show Afterlife, the way he processes from, not caring about whether he lives and him coming close to committing suicide to then understanding and valuing his life and his relationships with other people. It's a sad show, and I don't know anybody who's gone through that extremes as such, but I'm sure there would be people who have. But it is funny, it is sad, I see the change in his character, and that's really enlightening to just see somebody go from I don't want to live to, hey, I have people who care about me. Um, I guess if we don't have any questions, then it might be a good time to end. You definitely
Yeah.
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And if you have more questions, ask us on the link in the description. If you'd like to donate to Faithless Hijabi and support our mental health sessions, the money goes towards sponsoring other women in their sessions. The link is definitely below for our website. But yeah, thank you all so much. Thank you, Ghada. Bye.